appreciate it. All right, guys. What's going on? All right. I was gonna ask you who was gonna win, but I don't have to ask now. What's up, y'all? All right, y'all. All right. Hey, my man. Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? So Danny Jacobs did a recent interview talking about Gennady Golovkin and facing Canelo Alvarez. He talked about the controversy surrounding his loss to Gennady Golovkin, and he said that after he knocks off Canelo Alvarez's head, he's going after Golovkin. Here's what Danny Jacobs had to say. There are some controversial fights that he's had that where I thought he lost, including both Golovkin fights. I want to take his head off and prove that I'm the best gladiator in the world. Victory would truly show that whether you think I beat Golovkin or not, I'm the best middleweight in the world. I've always said that I'm the best, and I've also always been vocal that the win over Golovkin was taken from me. So a win over Canelo puts the new idea in the fans' mind that this guy is the best as he's proven it against a guy that beat Golovkin, and then I can give Golovkin the rematch and prove that I am better than him. End quote. Guys, what makes this some really significant news is the fact that Gennady Golovkin, I've been telling you guys, his trainer, Abel Sanchez, which basically Golovkin co-signs whatever Abel Sanchez says. Abel Sanchez, he just recently said that even if Canelo loses to Danny Jacobs, they still want to fight Canelo instead of fighting the winner. So not only is that something boxing fans didn't want to hear, at least real boxing fans that want to see the best fight the best, but that's something that Eddie Hearn and DAZN didn't want to hear as well. Because when they heard the talks of Golovkin possibly trying to avoid a Danny Jacobs fight if Danny beats Canelo, Eddie Hearn, he simply said, despite what Gennady Golovkin said, DAZN is going to push for a Golovkin versus Danny Jacobs fight next once again if Danny Jacobs is successful in the Canelo fight. So guys, this is going to put tremendous pressure on Gennady Golovkin to do the right thing. Like I just said in my last video, understand this, because I know some fans, they'll try to defend Golovkin and say, hey, well, he wants to fight Canelo because that's the guy that beat him. But understand this, if you're pursuing an opponent and that guy gets beat in, let's say, a tournament, then your natural next opponent is going to be the guy that beat him. And on top of that, even if Golovkin still wanted the third fight after Canelo lost to Danny Jacobs, if he lost to Danny Jacobs, he can still get that fight. But if he were to beat Danny Jacobs right after Danny Jacobs just beat Canelo, then that means Golovkin's stock goes up even higher. And he's the A side when he goes up against Canelo in the third fight. But once again, this is way deeper than just avoiding a Danny Jacobs fight. If you guys look at the Golovkin pattern, you'll notice he doesn't want to fight anyone that he believes he will most likely lose to, or they will just be too difficult of an opponent. Because I keep telling you guys, Golovkin, he feels that Canelo is the only guy he has a chance of beating. Now, don't get me wrong, he has a chance of beating all the other guys, but the chances are more slim compared to him losing to a Canelo Alvarez. But the reason we know this is not just about Golovkin waiting around for a Canelo fight because he feels that he was robbed and he wants to avenge the robbery, we know that's not the case, because right now, Gennady Golovkin is looking for a Hassan N'Dam, he's looking for a Steve Rose, while he waits for a Canelo fight. If this was a money situation, Golovkin, he would have went after Demetrius Andrade. Because if he would have fought against Demetrius Andrade, he would have made 2 to 3 times the amount of money that he's going to make against a Steve Rose or Hassan N'Dam. And that's for a title. What type of fighter turns down a title shot? Especially when you're going to get paid more and the fight is more meaningful and significant, and could most likely elevate your pound-for-pound status. The only time it makes sense to turn down a title shot is if there's some opponent out there who doesn't have a belt And that fight is way more bigger and way more meaningful than an actual title shot, which is not the case here. It's the complete contrary, because we know that an Ndom or a Steve Rose fight is not bigger than a Golovkin versus Andre fight for the title. In fact, it's not even comparable. Now, for the fans that say, hey, well, don't worry about it because Jacobs, he ain't gonna beat Canelo anyway. Even if that's the case, Golovkin is still in a very, very bad situation because he has a 6-fight deal with DAZN. Let's say he gets that third fight with Canelo Alvarez. First of all, there's a very good chance he could lose or even get stopped in the Canelo third fight, because I truly believe that he was really, really hurt bad with body shots in that rematch, right? On top of that, Canelo Alvarez, he figured out the way you fight Gennady Golovkin, which I've been telling you guys for years. You have to back up a Golovkin. You have to stay close to him. You have to take his jab away, and you have to force him to fight on his back foot. Now, this is not to suggest there's not other ways to beat Golovkin, but fighters like Asim Uma, Willie Monroe, and Canelo Alvarez, they showed that Canelo Alvarez is very uncomfortable when people fight him on the inside. So with that being said, once again, even if Canelo were to beat Danny Jacobs, there's a very good chance Canelo will beat Gennady Golovkin, and that will tarnish Golovkin's legacy even more. Now let's say, what if Golovkin wins the third fight? Once again, he still has 4 fights left on his deal. He's still going to have to fight the likes of the Demetrius Andrades, the Jamal Charlos, and depending on how Danny Jacobs loses to Canelo, if he does lose, he may have to fight him in a rematch as well. The Sergey Derevyevchenkos. So he's still going to have to fight tough competition, even if Danny Jacobs loses to Canelo Alvarez. So where does Golovkin go from that point on is the question. This is why it's really, really interesting, or it's really going to be interesting to see how this Danny Jacobs versus Canelo fight plays out on May 4th. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one.